Yes, Bhante, getting it started now.
Okay. Okay, good morning everybody. Let us begin with our metta recital. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere, neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another, as a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child. Even so, towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless living friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desire for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. Okay, with this metta thought in mind, let us try to practice meditation. As we always mention, this is the time we have to pay total undivided mindful attention without verbalizing or conceptualizing. When we pay total attention to the breath, we only know the breath through our feelings. I would not mention any particular place to focus the mind on, because that is not what will happen eventually. Therefore, just feel the breath coming in and going out. And then you notice your feelings change, perception changes, thoughts or attention or volition changes, consciousness changes. When all these change all together very quickly, there is no room for any excitement, greed to arise. Greed will be held at bay during that time. Then the body, the breath, mind, feeling, all become very calm, relaxed and peaceful. At that state, resentment disappears, because that is the state where metta, feeling, works. We feel that all living beings are one breathing unit. No distinction, no differentiation of any kind. We simply are breathing all together. and we all feel friendly feeling towards all of us. All other differences that we probably have had before temporarily subsides. Mind is charged with the thoughts of metta or feeling of metta. When metta feeling is strong, then the mind, body, feelings and all this become even more calm, more relaxed and peaceful. When all of them are calm, relaxed and peaceful, we may feel sleepy because it is so calm. But sleepiness also, of course, is so sweet, we tend to welcome it. But by welcoming sleepiness, we lose our main purpose, that is developing our mindfulness, attention, and gaining insight. Insight does not arise in sleep, and therefore we have to arouse our energy to overcome sleepiness. Among many ways of overcoming sleepiness, I recommend at this time for you to take a deep breath and hold it and slowly breathe out. If you are not feeling sleepy, you don't have to do that. Only if you feel sleepy, just take a deep breath, hold it as long as you can, and slowly breathe out. When you do this several times, naturally your sleepiness will disappear. Then you may be excited with an additional energy. And that is the opposite of sleepiness. When such excessive energy arises, we have to tame the mind to calm down, because the mind goes to the past or to the future, bringing our memories back. Mind itself doesn't go anywhere from where it is, but we remember many things, sometimes very exciting things, traumatic things, very sad things, things that upset us, and so on can arise. Or the mind may plan the future. So in order to avoid this vacillation between past and the future, we have to anchor the mind on the present moment. Present moment also is not empty of thought, feeling, perception, and so on. So we focus the mind on the breath in the present moment without verbalizing or conceptualizing. Then restlessness disappears. Mind can stay in the present breathing, feelings, perception, rising and falling. Then, of course, we still have another, what you call, obstruction. That is our doubt. It is possible for people to doubt. That is also very natural, but not necessary. people have doubts. So in order to overcome doubts, we have to arouse our trust in the Buddha, who with full enlightenment and deepest wisdom taught us this method of mindfulness meditation, and he himself practiced it by following the Dhamma. And the Dhamma is his teacher, which we also are trying to emulate, follow Buddha's example. So we want to follow the Buddha and the Dhamma, and also holy, noble disciples who followed the Buddha's footsteps, followed the Dhamma, and attained liberation. And they all have shown us the method. This is well-tested method for long period of time, and therefore it must work for us as well. So we have the trust in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, and also we have been able successfully to overcome 4 of the hindrances: greed, anger, sleepiness and drowsiness, restlessness and worry, and now we want to overcome our doubt. When we have trust in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha and ourselves, our doubt slowly fades away. When all these hindrances are out of our way, we feel very glad that we are free from death, free from sickness, free from prison, free from slavery, and free from confused desert area. When we feel that we are free from all this, joy arises, and joy leads to happiness naturally. When happiness arises, the mind is already prepared for gaining concentration. And then we gain concentration. When we gain concentration, use our concentration to see back again form, feeling, perception, thought and consciousness changing. They are constantly changing. Even though we are not fully aware, they change. They do change all the time. And they don't remain the same for 2 consecutive moments. Our body, feeling, perceptions, thought and consciousness, all of them are incessantly changing, appearing and disappearing. And then we will gain insight into impermanence. Impermanence. When we gain impermanence, we also can gain unsatisfactoriness and selflessness. So this is our goal, but we have not finished yet. We have a way to overcome remaining desire, anger, ignorance, of our body, feeling, perceptions and thoughts. When we see things changing all the time, always they are changing, greed, hatred and delusion fades away, at least temporarily. When we repeat this over and over, these defilements will give way or disappear permanently. Let us try to continue the practice. By means of this meritorious deed, may I never join with the foolish, may I join always with the wise, until the time I attain Nibbana. May the suffering be free from suffering, may the fear-struck be free from fear, may the grieving be free from grief, so too may all beings be. From the highest realm of existence to the lowest, may all beings arisen in these realms, with form and without form, with perception and without perception, be released from all suffering and attain to perfect peace. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Friends, this is our 13th talk on right understanding according to Venerable Sariputta's explanation. In fact, this combining Four Noble Truths with dependent origination, we can find in several places in Samyutta Nikaya, Sutta Nipata, and so forth. We focus only on this, on Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 9. Today we want to talk on consciousness. And consciousness also explained in terms of Four Noble Truths. So when the Sariputta asked the monks or bhikkhus, what is the consciousness? What is the arising of consciousness? What is the cessation of consciousness? What is the way to leading to the cessation of consciousness? I think you are familiar with this theme. These are the sentences used to describe or point out Four Noble Truths. Now let us take number 1. What is consciousness? Consciousness arises through our 6 senses. Therefore, there are 6 kinds of consciousness. Eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, body consciousness, and mind consciousness. And what is the origin of consciousness? Origin of consciousness is the what you call volitional formations. When volitional formations arises, consciousness arises. As you know, it is very logical. Volitional formation does not arise without consciousness. That means thought does not arise without consciousness. Thought and consciousness arise together. Although these two are inseparably united, we all know no thoughts can arise without consciousness. No consciousness can arise without thought. Therefore, this is the arising of consciousness. Then what is the cessation of consciousness? Of course, logically it follows, when the volitional formations cease, consciousness ceases. And the way leading to the cessation of volitional formations is the same Noble Eightfold Path. One may wonder how the Noble Eightfold Path leads to the cessation of consciousness and volitional formations. Because when volitional formation ceases, consciousness ceases at the same time. And how the Noble Eightfold Path leads to cessation of volitional formations and consciousness. The sutta does not go into that detail, but we must try to understand how it happens. In the first place, we have to understand, in the right understanding, most important thing is understanding everything is impermanent. Understanding everything is impermanent. Understanding every impermanent thing is unsatisfactory. And these two things we understand. Whatever arises, that passes away. Volitional formations arises, that passes away. It does not stay in the mind anywhere. It arises, it passes away. The first of the Noble Eightfold Path is right understanding. When we understand this, we understand that volitional formation rises and passes away together with consciousness. This is the cessation of the path. This path shows us the way it happens. The path and the way it happens, seeing both is the same. We see it happening and we see it passing away. And this seeing is the first step of the Noble Eightfold Path. That means seeing it correctly. Yatha bhuta jnana darsana. Seeing things as they really are. If we don't have a Noble Eightfold Path, if we do not master the Noble Eightfold Path, we do not see this. Those who do not understand even the first of the Noble Eightfold Path do not know this. And therefore number one is of the Noble Eightfold Path is very important. And then, based on this, our right intention arises. And that also arises and passes away, together with consciousness. Then our right speech arises. Right speech also arises and passes away with the volition and consciousness. Right action arises. That also arises with the volition and consciousness. That arises and passes away. Right livelihood, whatever livelihood we make, volition arises with that livelihood. Every moment of that livelihood, volition arises, consciousness arises. And volition passes away, consciousness passes away. Every effort we make is subject to change. Every effort we make with volition. Along with the volition, consciousness arises. Every step of mindfulness, every moment of mindfulness arises with volition and consciousness. That also rises and falls. Every moment of concentration rises with volition and passes away with consciousness. So, rising and falling we see all through from one moment to next moment, one thing to next thing, always. When we practice a Noble Eightfold Path, we see this very, very clearly. That is how Noble Eightfold Path leads to the cessation of volition and consciousness. Cessation, rising and falling. Once something arisen and fallen, it will never arise and fall again. New moment, new volition, new consciousness arises and falls. Always, always new. And that is another very important factor we have to understand. So the Buddha has volitional formations. Buddha asked monks, what is volitional formations? What is volitional formations? And Buddha, volitional formations is not one thing. There's many volitions. That's why it uses plural. And Buddha said in his explanation in Pali, now I tell it in English, they condition the conditioned. They condition the conditioned. Now, volition conditions volitions. Volitions conditions the whatever else is as construct form, the body. Volition conditions the body. Our body is conditioned by, body is itself is conditioned entity. And this conditioned entity is reconditioned, remodel, repair by volition. Since volition recondition the body, you know how many things we do to recondition this body with will? If you were to think of the things that we do to recondition the body, it is not that easy as reconditioning your car, reconditioning your engine of your car. That is very simple. But reconditioning this body is very difficult because the moment you recondition, next moment it changes. Then again you have to recondition. Then changes. Then again you have to recondition. Say for instance we eat to condition this body. How many times we have to eat? We drink to recondition this body. How many times we have to drink? We see objects. And how many times we have to see objects? We hear sounds. How many times we see the sounds? And volition is involved in all this. We have to will to eat, will to drink, we have to will to see, will to hear, will to sleep, will to go, will to exercise, to keep the body in shape. We have to breathe to recondition the body. All these are done by the will, by volition. So the Buddha said they are called volition because they recondition the conditioned things. Body is already conditioned thing, and this body is reconditioned by volition. We think of doing this, think of doing this, think of doing this, think of doing that, to maintain this body, recondition the body, and reconstruct the feelings. We have to repair our feelings. We have bad feeling, good feeling, feeling of fear, feeling of tension, feeling of anxiety, feeling of anger, and so many kinds of feelings. We mentioned 108 kinds of feelings at one of our earlier talks. And all these have to be reconditioned by will. All these feelings we have to recondition by will. And then our perceptions. We have to recondition our perceptions. We perceive things and we have to make adjustment to our perception. For instance, there is an object. I think it is beautiful, you think it is ugly. Is that beauty or ugly in the object? It is not in the object. It is in our mind. Then when we open our eyes and see, is it true? It is not true. So we have to adjust our perception. We have to adjust our perception to understand this is not what we see in the object, but this is in the mind. So volition, we have to have the volition to readjust this perception, correct this perception. And then volition itself is the fourth thing, conditioned things. We have trillions of thoughts, we have to readjust them because our thoughts always are not the same, not the correct, not the wrong thoughts, not always right thoughts. All kind of thoughts arise, and will or volition has to recondition these thoughts in our mind. And then consciousness is conditioned mental state, and we have to recondition consciousness. So, therefore, the Buddha said, why this is called volitional formations? Because it conditions the conditioned. Always volition condition our body, feeling, perception, volition and consciousness. And therefore they are called volitional formations. So, and these volitional formations can make, it is very interesting, that is another deep part of this teaching. These volitional formations is called karma. Why it is called karma? Because a person immersed in ignorance generates meritorious volitional formations. Person immersed in ignorance generates wholesome volitional formations. Somebody might question, if one is immersed in ignorance, how can he generate wholesome volitional formations, meritorious volitional formations? Because the person does not know meritorious volitional formations entails danger. Meritorious, wholesome, or meritorious or wholesome volitional formations have their danger. What is the danger? That we will put into another life and then perform more meritorious volitional formations, then do more wholesome karma. So wholesome karma becomes an addiction. It is a very powerful addiction to do wholesome karma. The result is lingering in samsara, going in merry-go-round, in treadmill, doesn't come out, cannot help us to come out. Volitional formation. Why? Why we perform volitional formations? Because we are immersed in ignorance. Ignorance does not show the danger of volitional formations. You know, when Prince Siddhartha was leaving home, Mara came to him and said, why you want to give up this palatial pleasure, luxury? You have a beautiful palace, beautiful wife, lot of wealth, and whatever you want, you can get very instantly you can get. You stay home, enjoy life, and you can do meritorious deeds. Buddha said, Anumattena pi punyena atto mayhang navijjati yena satti punyena tangmaro vattuvarati. I don't need a little bit of punya, meritorious deeds. Who needs that you go and ask him to get it? I want to get rid of even merits to liberate myself from samsara. That is what he saw through wisdom. When we have insight, when our ignorance is removed, then we would not commit meritorious, wholesome, meritorious volitional formations. Or wholesome or meritorious volitional formations we will not commit. So long as we are immersed in ignorance, which blocks our wisdom from seeing the danger of volitional formations. And then, immersed in ignorance, people commit unwholesome volitional formations. That is very obvious. They endanger their life, not here alone, but even in future. Be born in very, very painful, woeful states of existence and untold amount of suffering they go through, all due to volitional formations. So, immersed in ignorance, persons commit unwholesome volitional formations. And immersed in ignorance, that is also very interesting. One would generate imperturbable volitional formations. What is imperturbable volitional formations? Practicing jhana. Attaining jhana is a wonderful thing. You overcome all your hindrances. You are in a very peaceful, blissful experience. What is wrong with that? But even there is ignorance. What is the ignorance? That getting into this blissful state is not permanent. This peaceful, blissful state is not permanent. It changes, it is impermanent. Even if somebody, after attaining jhana and die in jhana, he may be reborn in realms called Brahma realms, where lifespan is eons and eons and eons. Those who practice this are still in those states, even during the Buddha's time, or even before that. People who attain, gain, committed, volitional, imperturbable, wholesome mental states, that means attain jhanas. Even before Buddha attained enlightenment, they attain jhanas, and they passed in jhanas, may still be lingering in Brahma realms. And still their life will end, and they will be reborn, sometimes where they start, or even below that. And therefore, volitional formations reconditions already conditioned body, feeling, perception, thought and consciousness, and cause more volitional formations. They can be wholesome, unwholesome, or imperturbable. So, understanding, right understanding, help us to abandon ignorance. What is right understanding? Is that all these are impermanent. Wholesome is impermanent, unwholesome is impermanent, imperturbable is impermanent. Not seeing this impermanence in all this is called ignorance. Abandon ignorance and arouse true knowledge. What is the true knowledge? True knowledge is knowledge of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness and selflessness. Knowledge of suffering, cause of suffering, end of suffering, and the path leading to the end of suffering. This is the knowledge. Knowing the Four Noble Truths is the knowledge. Knowing what Noble Eightfold Path does to us is a knowledge. Arouse this. Then Buddha said, with the fading away of ignorance and the arousing true knowledge, the meditator generates meritorious, does not generate meritorious volitional formations, does not generate demeritorious volitional formations, does not generate imperturbable meritorious deeds, and then his mind is free. Since it does not generate or fashion volitional formations of any sort, he does not cling to anything in the world. We cling to things because of committing all these things. Not clinging, he is not agitated. He is not agitated, excited. Not agitated, he personally attains Nibbana. Then he understands destroyed is birth. How he understands destroyed, birth is destroyed? Because he understands that he ended his volitional formations, ended his ignorance. So birth is ended. And then he said, holy life has been lived. What is the holy life? The life of Noble Eightfold Path. And he might say to himself, I have done what had to be done. Nothing more. My mission is accomplished. So friends, this is the end of 13th talk. I plan to give 3 more talks before I go for my 3 months seclusion. I give 3 more talks, one next Saturday, and after that perhaps I want to end the series of talks before I start my seclusion. I will announce those days later on. Now I want to end the talks by my regular wish that may all those who are in hospitals suffering from COVID-19 and any other disease, may they recover very quickly, return to normal life, and continue their Dhamma work and practice Dhamma and attain liberation from samsaric suffering. And those doctors, nurses, hospital staffs who take care of these people even at the risk of their own lives, sacrificing their comfort and energy, using their skill, may they continue their wonderful, compassionate service and live long in good health, practice Dhamma and liberate themselves from samsaric suffering. May all those who have lost their loved ones and were grieving, we wish them that they be released from that grief and return to their very normal life, continue Dhamma practice and liberate themselves from all griefs, sorrow, lamentation and suffering in samsara. And those who generously support various projects, various people, various organizations and countries to maintain the world's health, peace, may they continue their wonderful, compassionate, generous service and live long in good health, practice Dhamma, attain liberation. And everybody that join this series of talks and those who have even not joined this series, I want to wish them all very good health, peace, and liberate themselves from samsaric suffering by practicing Dhamma. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Bhante.